Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Volume 6, Episode 2 of the NFL Talk Series Team by Team Previews. Today on the show, we are keeping things in the good old NFC North, where we'll be breaking down the Minnesota Vikings for you today. So that's what's coming up. I have a confession to make. I don't know what day you guys are going to be getting this. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm just going to come clean. Once we get around 3/4 of the way through Team by Team Previews, which we're almost there now, I just sort of lost it in terms of posting to social media and uploading on a daily basis. It just sort of fell apart. So, basically what the deal is I'm going to be doing sort of a Team by Team Previews marathon over the next week or so. Trying to cram in all of the team previews before the NFL season actually starts on September 11th. It is September 11th, right? That it starts? I'm fairly certain. I'm checking that right now. I'm also using a different device to record this, so that may mess things up. I don't know. But yeah, I'll be basically doing a broadcast marathon because school has started for me just recently, and it made things a lot more difficult. So, September 8th, my bad, is when it starts, when the season kicks off. So I'm going to have to cram in a lot of things. But, okay, today we're going to get to the Vikings. And a couple things to get to before we kick things off. Like I said, sorry about not updating, not posting on a daily basis. I need to start doing that again here. Also, I haven't completely gone through with it yet, but I'm allegedly, I say allegedly because that's literally what it is, hopefully I will be appearing as a guest on the Rashard Matthews show. I misspoke. The Rashad Mitchell show. Rashard Matthews is a football player, not a sports host. His name's Rashad Mitchell. I always get the two names mixed up, I'm not sure why. So hopefully that's going to go through. He's a sports show. He hosts a podcast on Gyroscope Radio. And it looks like I'm going to be appearing as a one-time guest on the show. So, where's the drop for this? I guess we'll find out at the end. Okay. So hopefully going to be appearing as a guest on the Rashad Mitchell show. Holy cow, I need to get that straight. I will be keeping you updated. Also, another item of business to get to. Like I said, don't know when you guys are going to be getting this podcast, but the one thing I do know that I can tell you is that I will be, right now, letting you know what this week's weekly Twitter follow is. And hopefully we'll be doing this on a more of a regular basis and on a more of a set date as the NFL season approaches, and we kick things off the NFL season on September 8th. But I have given you the first 3 weekly Twitter follows at Youth News Radio, at TNOS Music Show, at On the Bench CBS. You can listen to past podcasts if you haven't heard the details. This week's weekly Twitter follow, I don't have my drum roll drop here for you guys, but this week's weekly Twitter follow is at Matthew Berry TMR. Now let me say this, if you're a fantasy football fan and you don't know who Matthew Berry is, you're not a fantasy football fan. Matthew Berry, only the greatest fantasy football analyst of all time. It's gonna go say. He's ESPN senior fantasy analyst, New York Times bestselling author of Fantasy Life, founder of the Fantasy Life app. And he says in his Twitter bio, I'm just as surprised as you at all of it. So go ahead and follow him today at Matthew Berry TMR on Twitter. You're going to want to do so. Let me just say this. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. All right, let's see if I can give you an update on the latest poll. And I will tell you what, if we don't have a poll in today's podcast, we will definitely have one shortly. So it's going to be either in today's podcast or in the next 2 podcasts, because I like to do a poll for every division, and so far we've done that. So I haven't done my NFC North poll yet. I guess we'll see how it plays out. If a topic comes up that I want to do as a poll, we'll go ahead and put that in. But the latest poll, will Dez Bryant or Tony Romo get injured this season? I just realized how ironic this is, because Romo already got hurt. 56% of them said both will get hurt. 24% says just Romo will get hurt. 14% say neither, and just 6% say only Dez will get hurt. So, if Dez gets hurt sometime this season, then the majority will be correct. We will have to see, won't we? Alright, guys. I feel really bad right now because I've wasted so much time. I mean, I guess not wasted, but... Alright, it's time to jump in. Time to dive right in, because today we're talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Don't forget to follow at MatthewBerryTMR on Twitter. And maybe there will be a poll opportunity. Who knows? It'll be interesting. Alright. So, the Minnesota Vikings, a team I could say mildly hyped about this year, but not enough people are talking about them because of the fact that, keep in mind, they won the division last year. Not a lot of people realize that because of their big screw-up in the playoffs. And look, I still love Blair Walsh. Everyone makes mistakes. Blair Walsh, obviously, incredibly disappointed, I'm certain, about the mistake that he made in the playoffs. But not a lot of people are talking about the Vikings as much as they should be, because they did win the division last year. Keep that in mind. We'll start off by quickly touching on Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, he is their quarterback, and to be honest, I really don't know what to expect from Bridgewater. I think he's one of those guys that you can't trust in fantasy. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. That's where I'm going. You can't really trust him because he has a low floor and a low ceiling. The Vikings' third preseason game looked good. Went 12 of 16 for 161 yards and a score. But, to be honest, the Vikings don't pass that much. They're a ground and pound team. Last season, he did play all 16 games, but he rushed 44 times for 192 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. He'll get you the value on his legs, with his legs, I should say, which gives him some potential upside. I will say this is worth noting. From 2014 to 2015, Bridgewater's completions, attempts, completion percentage, and yards passing all went up. And his rushing attempts, his rushing yards, they both went down. Something worth noting. Because I kind of think that since Adrian Peterson is getting older, they're going to want to keep him on a snap count. And they're going to want to make sure he doesn't overexert himself, because they want to see if he can be around for the next couple of years. Teddy Bridgewater makes me a little bit nervous. I think he'll be good for the Vikings, but the Vikings just aren't a pass-first kind of a team. Obviously, the guy I just mentioned, Adrian Peterson, who, let me just be blunt about this, he should not be the number 1 overall pick. At least, I don't believe so. He is 31, and I think that he's going to start declining this year. The guy has had an incredible season. Incredible. In every season that he has played at least 14 games, he has crossed the 1,200-yard threshold. 1,200-yard threshold. 2011, he only played 12 games, still rushed for 973 yards, and played just one game in 2014, rushed for 75 yards. I mean, but the guy is still a monster. There's no question about it. However, there are guys that I like better. Like, I personally think that Todd Gurley is going to have a better season. You know what? We might be able to do a poll on that. I wonder. Who will have... Let's go ahead and say this. I'll put this poll out here. Who will have more fantasy points in standard scoring this season, Adrian Peterson or Todd Gurley? I'm going to argue that it's Todd Gurley. I think with a new quarterback coming in, he is going to perform well. The wide receivers don't excite me that much in Jarius Wright and Cordero Patterson. Even Laquan Treadwell, the rookie, we're not going to... I mean, really, this is his exhibition, obviously. Charles Johnson doesn't even thrill me that much, but the guy that does really excite me is Stephon Diggs. Look, I think this guy's talented. Guy's talented. I'm trying to pull up his stats here from last year. He is a versatile guy, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the number 1 receiving role, because he hasn't got a chance to do that yet. He is going to be a viable fantasy commodity. Only 22 entering his second season. Last year caught 52 balls, 720 yards, 4 touchdowns. In the third preseason game, went 5 for 71 and finished the preseason with 7 grabs for 82 yards for Stephon Diggs. And Kyle Rudolph won't have a huge year, but he'll be there. It feels like there's a lot of tight ends that are just going to be there this year. So he's a guy that can use as a backup, but not super excited about him. He's a big guy, and he's got a little ways to go yet too in his career. Only 26. All right, time for the X Factor this year for the Vikings, and I'll be honest, I think it's going to be Stephon Diggs. Teddy Bridgewater is an average quarterback. We know that Adrian Peterson is a great running back. We don't know yet what to expect from Stephon Diggs in that number 1 receiving role. It's going to be interesting. Because last year, I don't think that he unleashed his full potential on the league. I think the guy, like I said, has massive talent. Played 13 games last year. Didn't play all 13 games, but I'm expecting this guy to have a big season. However, I can see him having a poor season. He's the kind of guy that I can see underperforming, maybe even performing at a lower level than he did last year. I can also see him going nuts, bananas. As for the Vikings record prediction, got to go quickly because I am indeed running out of time. Vikings record prediction. Look, I don't think they're going to win the division this year. But I think they're going to make the playoffs. They've got some tough games on the schedule. They've got the Panthers. Obviously, they've got to play the Packers twice. But it's not so tough that they're going to faceplant. Vikings are going to be good. And the Vikings, for y'all, are going to go 10-6, and they'll get that wild card spot next to the Packers. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been Volume 6, Episode 2. Like I said, a broadcasting marathon is coming up. But I'll be switching things up at the start of the NFL season, doing weekly podcasts, maybe even 2 on the weekends. Stay tuned on NFL Talk. We will see you tomorrow on NFL Talk. Peace out, guys.